Hello everyone, I'm Anas Al-Ubaidi, and the topic or the title of this lecture or this session is about international clinical trial harmonization, which is part of the chapter that is about the introduction to clinical research and regulatory frameworks. And the lecture or the session is part of the Advanced ICH Good Clinical Practice Certification Course Program by CCRPS. Introduction. International harmonization in clinical trials is the process by which various countries and regulatory bodies align their guidelines and practices to ensure the smooth execution of global clinical trials. Harmonization reduces discrepancies between national regulations, which helps streamline the process of drug approval and ensures that clinical trials are conducted safely and efficiently across borders. Key points. First key point to start with is the importance of international harmonization as a globalization of clinical trials. With the increasing number of multinational clinical trials, harmonization helps create uniformity in trial design, data collection, and regulatory review across different regions. Regulatory efficiency. Aligning regulations minimizes redundancy, reduces time for drug approval, and simplifies regulatory submission processes for sponsors. Patient safety. Harmonized standards ensure that the safety and rights of trial participants are uniformly protected across countries. Faster access to medicines. By creating standardized protocols, international harmonization facilitates faster approval and access to new treatments for patients globally. And here is a diagram on benefits of international harmonization in clinical trials. As the benefits rely with the outcome, which is improved clinical trial outcomes, and this is done by globalization of trials, regulatory efficiency, patient safety, faster access to medicines. Second key point here, another key point, key regulatory bodies and harmonization. Several key organizations work toward harmonization of clinical trial practices internationally. ICH, International Council for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceuticals for Human Use. ICH guidelines are considered the gold standard for harmonization in clinical trials. They harmonize regulatory requirements in Europe, Japan, and United States, USA. Key areas of focus: good clinical practice, GCP, good manufacturing practice, GMP, and good laboratory practice, GLP. World Health Organization, WHO, provides guidelines for global health research and supports the development of ethical clinical trial practices. WHO's whose International Clinical Trials Registry platform, ICTRP, helps harmonize clinical trial registrations. European Medicines Agency, EMA, works closely with the ICH and provides region-specific guidelines for the European market, facilitates the approval of new treatments in the EU, European Union market. US Food and Drug Administration, FDA, works with ICH to align its regulations with global standards and ensures safety and efficacy of clinical trials conducted in the United States, in USA. Another key point, ICH guidelines and their impact on harmonization. The ICH guidelines form the backbone of international harmonization in any clinical trials. They cover a range of topics to standardize clinical trial practices across regions. Key ICH guidelines, we have the GCP, Good Clinical Practice, ensures the ethical and scientific quality of trials, standardizes protocols, informed consent and trial monitoring, protects participant rights and safety, ensuring the integrity of clinical data. E6 R3 GCP guidelines. These guidelines focus on ensuring data quality and protecting human subjects in clinical trials. Key components: trial protocol requirements, rules of investigators and sponsors, ethical considerations, and informed consent and privacy. E2E2 end-to-end clinical trials guidelines focuses on drug development from preclinical studies through to marketing. Emphasizes harmonized trial methodologies, safety reporting, and clinical outcome assessments. And here is a diagram on harmonizing global clinical trials. Another key point here, harmonization process and strategies. The harmonization process involves the following steps. Developing shared standards. Regulatory bodies work together to create shared guidelines for clinical trials. The goal is to ensure that the clinical data generated in one country is accepted in others. Implementing globally accepted protocols, standardized protocols are developed to cover trial design, reporting, and data collection processes. This ensures that the clinical trial process is consistent regardless of location. Cross-border collaboration, regulatory agencies across countries like the FDA, EMA, and Japan's PMDA collaborate to create common guidelines, reducing delays in global approval processes. Another key point here, challenges in international harmonization, cultural differences. Different countries have different cultural expectations regarding healthcare, patient consent, and treatment modalities. Overcoming these differences is a key challenge in harmonization. Regulatory divergences, while organizations like ICH work to harmonize regulations, different countries still have unique requirements that may not always align. Ethical and legal disparities. Different countries have varied ethical standards and legal frameworks governing clinical trials. For example, the concept of informed consent may differ in some cultures. Next, we have the summary tables. Here we have a table on regulatory bodies and their role, table on key ICH guidelines, table on phases of harmonization process, table on challenges in international harmonization, table on strategies to overcome harmonization challenges, and then examples. We have the topic, application example, and examples. Next, we have the MCQs, multiple choice questions, in order to revise what we have covered through this lecture. Question 1. Which of the following is the primary goal for international clinical trial harmonization? It is B, to create uniform standards and guidelines for clinical trials across regions, as the goal is to create harmonized standards for clinical trials, ensuring consistency and efficiency globally. Question 2. What does ICH's E6 R3 GCP guideline primarily focus on? C. Ensuring data integrity and protection for human subjects, as E6 R2 focuses on maintaining high quality data and protecting the rights and safety of clinical trial participants. Question 3. Which organization plays a central role in developing global clinical trial guidelines for pharmaceutical development? ICH. C. As the International Council for Harmonization, ICH is responsible for developing widely accepted guidelines in clinical trials. Question 4. What is one of the biggest challenges in international clinical trial harmonization? Would be the cultural variations. B. Variations in cultural expectations and healthcare practices, as cultural differences can affect how trials are conducted, especially in informed consent processes. Question 5. Which of the following best describes the ICH's E2E guidelines? Well, it is B, principles for clinical trial design from preclinical to post-marketing, as B is the answer. The E2E guidelines cover the entire spectrum of drug development from preclinical testing to post-marketing surveillance. And here we come to the end of this lecture. Thank you very much and goodbye.